Origin Gens. This is the animated history of Australia by channel Suibn. I don't know how to pronounce that. Suibhne. Is that native Australian? No, this is not an Australian channel. I don't know. It is not. It is. I don't know. There are many other historian videos he made. Australia, Mexico, Germany. Okay. Yeah, somebody told me I should react to this. I like history. Let's watch this one. Now also created a history reaction channel. I'll put the link in description in the end card video. Just go there and subscribe if you like my history reactions. Eventually, I'll just put history reaction videos on that channel and not this main one. I'm trying to split my content because YouTube doesn't like that. My video does so well, then I'll switch it to some different type of video and then everything goes away. That's how algorithm works. So if you like my history reactions, check that out. And yeah, let's watch this one.
By Skillshare. The first 500 viewers who sign up using the link below get 2 months of Skillshare absolutely free. Aristotle, Ptolemy and Macrobius believed that there was far too much land in the northern hemisphere, and that there must be some undiscovered continent balancing the globe somewhere in the south. Okay, so the logic was a little flawed, but during the Age of Discovery, the search was on for Terra Australis Incognito. Fast forward a few centuries to the East Indies. 3 Dutch sailors landed in Australia accidentally in the 1600s. The mythical southern continent had just been found.
You know what? How you play a video game, open world video game, and you find a place in just sense of exploration. This is literally real life. Imagine the people who literally stumble upon Australia after reading all those Greek shit. Oh, there's another entire continent in southern part of the globe, and you found it. You don't know how big it is. Imagine your brain thinking this is probably huge, and trying to explore it, thinking this must be as big as African continent or whatever. Right? The sense of exploration, how you not get addicted to that.
Australia was the last of the New World to be discovered, because let's be honest, nobody cares about Antarctica. Australia was of course already inhabited. Indigenous Australians, also known as, had a population of between 300 and 700,000 by modern estimates. Early contacts with these tribes were as often peaceful as they were violent. It is thought that these groups arrived in 2 stages. The first was from the Indian subcontinent via a land bridge that connected Australia to the island of New Guinea, bringing with them the Pama-Nyungan language family. The second wave was much later and may have been groups related to the Austronesians of Indonesia. Their culture and history was preserved through the oral tradition. The Dutch named the island New Holland after the county of Holland in the Netherlands, but it wasn't until the British landed on the east coast and named it New South Wales that Europeans began to settle. Landing in Port Jackson on the 26th of January 1788, hey, that's today, the so-called First Fleet arrived to found the colony of Sydney, with the intention of using the labour of prisoners to achieve wealth for Britain. However, contrary to Australia's convict founding myth, less than half of this First Fleet were actually convicts. In the 1800s, Australia was circumnavigated, mapped, and new colonies started springing up all over. Hobart, Newcastle, Launceston, Port Macquarie, Brisbane and Melbourne, with dozens of penal centres. Adelaide and Perth were founded as free settlement cities, but the latter was made into a penal colony after it failed to grow naturally. As the Europeans expanded, the frontier wars began with the Aboriginals, many of whom were hostile to the foreign invaders. Most famously, the Black War of Tasmania, which nearly wiped out the indigenous Tasmanians. But far more destructive to the Aboriginals was smallpox, which killed tens of thousands. Australia's growth would stagnate until the 1850s gold rush, which drew hundreds and thousands of settlers from all around the world.
See, this is one of the reasons why Britain was such a powerhouse. They just came here, called it South Wales, and look at the level of towns they just established. Melbourne, Sydney, Newcastle. These are the big cities now in Australia, right? This is the case everywhere. Other European countries go and colonize this, but Britain comes, they just colonize the fuck out of everything.
Search for wealth, particularly in New South Wales and what would become Victoria. This would forever change Australia's character, with new free settlers overshadowing its convict past, bringing with them their ideas of European Enlightenment, the American self-determinism, and the Chinese hatred for the British. These gold diggers became discontent with the corrupt and badly run colonial elites and rose up in rebellion in the infamous Eureka Stockade. These settlers were
How does a word become such derogatory at a level that even if you use it in a proper meaning, you're supposed to literal gold diggers, then the people like, okay, well, what the fuck you just said?
beginning to feel a sense of nationalism that perhaps Australia could be something different. The winds of change were on Terra Australis, and soon, large-scale trade unions developed in Australia's largely working-class population from the ideas of orthodox Marxists. Trade unions still hold a significant influence over Australian politics today.
But let's not forget the rift that had been forming between Australia and Australians, the government and its people. Thousands of ex-convicts were being released each year, most of them turning to civil jobs, but a sizable minority turned to Australia's bushy frontier for freedom and profits. Policing was harsh, but order couldn't reach far enough. Outside of the cities, only personal gain and wealth could drive law enforcement. Money would change hands.
I mean, it's already, when you look at it today, Australia is like really effed up geographically, right? If you go in the center of Australia and everything is just like way too hostile. There's a reason why Australia is like mostly colonized in the borders, while the center of Australia is mostly empty farms and mostly hostile. There is not a place, maybe some extreme parts of Africa, but apart from that, there is no place like Australia where it is so hostile. It's littered with like dangerous things, big ass spiders and everything. Back then, how are you gonna police out of towns and cities? Like, yeah, it was already a problem.
Lips were sealed. In this climate, an Australian icon was born, Ned Kelly. Famous for his tin hat Robin Hood thievery, infamous for his cop killing and town raids, and recognisable everywhere for that nifty bulletproof suit. For more on one of the most well-known
Looks like more S&M than okay.
cornerstones of Australian folklore, go to my channel, Feature History, and check out my video on Old Ned.
Okay, so besides bulletproof suits or whatever, most Aussie colonies were granted self-governing status and united to form the Commonwealth of Australia in 1901, a dominion of the British Crown.
Nobody gives a fuck about New Zealand. I guess we're talking about Australia, but like, did Britain go there? Like, I don't remember. I must have like read that. Like, I've been watching history videos for so long. Maybe I just missed that. But yeah, probably, right? British are the one who went there as well. I don't know.
The new Australian government was very quick to open up a new dark chapter in Aboriginal history, the infamous Stolen Generation. Beginning in 1905, the government began rounding up half-castes, a term which is now highly offensive, and settled them into white families with the intention of breeding out their Aboriginal blood, in a form of...
Damn! If you don't get the reference, I highly recommend the film Rabbit Proof Fence. Like to see a story inspired by true events. Is there any place on the planet, any country where shit like this didn't happen? It's just insane. I mean, at the time, people would be like, oh, this makes sense, without even thinking about like, like human element behind it. Like how fucked up it is. Nobody thought of that at the time.
Cultural genocide. Abuses of these children were also rampant, which is a rather depressing segue into the White Australia policy, a set of strict settlement acts which restricted immigration from any...
Yeah, from that, like, okay, treating children harshly like that, doing that kind of like a cultural genocide, as you said. Anybody think about Australia, it's just like, I like how the top comment says, how to speak Australian? Yes, that means, nah, yeah, mate, that's what yes is. No, yeah, nah, mate, that's what no is. And definitely is, yeah, nah, for sure, mate, that's definitely. Yeah, that's what we think of Australia.
Anyone who wasn't British or Northern European up until about the Second World War. As a British colony, Australia would unilaterally declare war on Germany during the First World War, forming the Australia and New Zealand Army Corps, or ANZACs. The young nation was sent headfirst into war. Around 500,000 soldiers volunteered, or nearly 1/10 of the total population. The baptism of fire came during the Gallipoli campaign, when more than 8,000 men lost their lives in the failed invasion of Turkey, an event etched into the memory of the Australian zeitgeist. Although crippled from the Great Depression, Australia again took up arms in 1939 to support her mother nation in the Second World War, this time fighting in Europe, North Africa, the Pacific and South Asia. Prisoners of war in Malaya, Burma and Thailand were treated inhumanely by the Japanese, who also...
I think people keep forgetting how much Australian military has been involved in major events, especially World War. a lot of countries were involved in world wars, but still, like, people don't understand the extent, like how in, like, Western theater, Pacific theater, right? How much Australia was just there. When you talk about allies, one of the part of those allies are Australian troops.
Also bombed Australia's northern coast about 100 times. Australia is still a very young nation, but it has emerged a very powerful force in the region, now a beacon of democracy, social progressivism and commerce, with its phenomenal urbanization consistently ranked among the world's
basically vast as vast can be. When people think of West, they're also thinking of Australia, even though it's not in the West. But it's like Western culture. It's rich place, basically, right? Sometimes people are like, what you talking about? Australia is not West. It's literally not in the West. And Australia is not rich. I'm like, what are you talking about? Are you high? Like, even in YouTube ads, I know that Australians pay a lot for ads. So if your videos in somebody sees in Australia, you're probably going to pay it more, because that's how rich they are there.
most livable cities, walking the line between left and right with generous social programs, universal suffrage, a welcoming immigration policy, and attractive business prospects. This is John. John wants to learn how to play the didgeridoo he bought from a garage sale, but the lessons are expensive, so John will probably give up. But wait, John, you can learn for free over at Skillshare in just 17 minutes with Paul Carl.
Didgeridoo. I love that. Wah.
Plus, you can take a beginner's course in the didgeridoo. Skillshare
Look at the most like toned down shirt with a like pajama style pant and glasses. Yeah, that's Australian right there.
is an online learning platform where you can learn a new skill with more than 20,000 courses in design.
Yeah, well, go to original video page link from there. Support this channel. Look, man, Australians either they have stigma of this or not, but Australia is one of the best looking people, tall people, and like very laid back. Can you get more cooler? I don't know. I'm sure there are people out there like, I know some Australians and like that's not what I think of. Yeah, okay. But this is the stigma of Australian people, isn't it? It started as like prisoners, then like slowly became like a powerhouse. Top Gear is just gonna make that fun of Australia all the time that they're prisoners or something because they're British. But yeah, what is with the British and Australia today? Like, somebody comment down. What do British still make fun of Australians like that? Like, oh, look at the prisoners are here or some shit like that. I don't know. Is there any friction? I don't think there will be friction, right? Like, it's just, yeah. Right, well, if you like my Ericsson, don't forget to subscribe, and yeah, I'll see you next time.